Welcome to Light Novel Sound, where we bring incredible light novels to life through immersive audiobooks you can enjoy for free. Today, we're diving into Weapon Seller in the World of Magic, a thrilling fantasy novel written by Snowstar and originally published on lightnovelworld.co. Meet Mark Spencer, a genius military weapon designer who was kidnapped and forced to create advanced weapons for the mafia, until he finally escaped, only to be betrayed and shot by his own comrades. But instead of dying, he wakes up in another world as Lu Zhen, armed with a powerful weapon system that lets him bring modern firepower into a realm ruled by magic. Bows and arrows? Outdated. Flying carpets? Obsolete. Fighting dragons? Why struggle when you can drop a nuclear bomb? Watch as Lu Zhen changes the balance of power in this world, introducing firearms, fighter jets, and war machines no one has ever seen before. If you enjoy this audiobook, please support the original work by reading Weapon Seller in the World of Magic on lightnovelworld.co. And if you like what we do, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Your support helps us continue bringing amazing stories to life. Now, sit back and enjoy the action. Chapter 66.1, A Deal with the Second Prince, Part 1. Second Prince. Mark's expression changed immediately as soon as he heard it. Mark stared at him with a deep frown. There were complex feelings in his heart. Everyone within the empire knew about the relationship between the imperial children. The first prince was born to Emperor and the Empress. The second prince was born to the Emperor and his first queen consort. The third prince and fifth princess were born to the Emperor and his second queen consort. The fourth prince was born to the third queen consort. The first queen consort was an orphan with who the emperor has fallen in love and used to be his favorite consort. But, on the night he turned 15, his mother died in an assassination. With no one to look after him, he was forced to choose the military way and eventually climbed up the ranks, becoming one of the 4 generals by the age of 27 and maintaining the position for 5 years now. This is where the problem lies for Mark. He hates the imperial family to the core, but the second prince is someone that stays away from the affairs of the palace. He might be of the emperor's blood, but he basically held no relations with any of his family members. For Mark, meeting such a person is really uncomfortable. Tap tap tap. Amid everyone's gazes, they continued to walk towards him and soon, they stopped before Mark and the others. Young Master, Li Su, who was massively bleeding, held onto his consciousness and weakly addressed the young man. Li Su? The young master of the Jin clan was taken aback at first before he glared at Mark. Are you the one that did it? Before Mark gave a response, Li Su interrupted, He's the one, young master. Please give me justice. What are you lot watching? Jin Gengxin scolded the soldiers before him and ordered them to take his servant away for treatment. While he was taken away, the young man turned towards him once again. You are really audacious to injure my servant. Audacious, eh? Mark's lips widened in amusement. You remind me of a noble who said similar words to me a few weeks ago. Do you know what happened in the end? A deep frown appeared on Jin Gengxin. It would be a lie if he doesn't want to behead the man in front of him. But he was controlling his rage as people are looking at him. If he commits murder in daylight, it might negatively affect the commoners that came all the way at his clan's request. Not to mention, there's only less than a day before the dungeon break. Meanwhile, the second prince fell into thoughts. The moment he reached there, he saw the shotgun in Mark's hand. Then, he saw no fear in Mark's eyes, and now, he heard about an incident even he heard of it. What should I call you? The second prince asked him directly to confirm his suspicion. Mark was about to remind them of Song Clan, but as he was asked about his identity, he thought he might as well introduce himself, Lu Zhen. Lu Zhen? The owner of Genesis Weapon Store. Shang Wen wondered out loud in surprise. Do you know him, Your Highness? Jin Gengxin became curious. At the same time, he felt like he heard of the store name, somewhere or from someone. Him. Mark was also equally surprised. You heard of me? The second prince nodded. Of course, the fame of your store even reached the far south, although most of the credit must go to Lin Clan. Anyway, I plan to make a deal with you for our new division in the near future. Now that we have met by a strange coincidence, we can talk about the details right away. Follow me to our camp if you aren't busy. The Jin clan's young master went into a daze. He didn't expect the situation to turn like this very quickly. Judging by how the mighty second prince isn't putting on airs, he thought it would be better if he don't look for trouble if he wants the second prince as his ally. As for the justice to Li Su, he's just a servant. If he goes on to punish Mark and upset the second prince, Jin Gongxin was sure that his father will roast him. Amid everyone's gazes, Mark followed the second prince towards the far left of the camp where the subordinates of the second prince are currently staying. As for Jin Gongxin, the young man parted ways in the middle to leave for the infirmary to check on his servant. On the way, the second prince didn't stay quiet either. He went against his usual behavior of staying quiet and expressed his curiosity about the gun in Mark's hand. This type of firearm is called shotgun. The name of this model is Tomahawk. It is an ungraded weapon, but with the help of 12-gauge ammunition, one can effectively kill a 3-circle realm, be it a beast or a human. Mark showed the ammo, surprising the second prince as he took a clear look at it. Previously, Mark only thought of him as someone from the imperial family. But, upon realizing that Shang Wen is a potential customer, and a big one at that, Mark only treated him as such. It goes without saying that self-development and profits are more important than revenge for dead Lu Zhen. This one is heavier, bigger than that bullet. The second prince commented while returning it to Mark. This one can kill a 3-circle realm, eh? Assuming that the second prince might have misunderstood his statement, Mark then added a remark. Of course, it cannot kill a 3-realm beast or expert just by clicking the trigger. You need techniques, and the target should be vital points like forehead, chest, etc. Of course, I know. The second prince nodded in understanding. Even if I have a divine grade sword, I cannot kill even a 1-circle beast by slicing its legs. I need to go for its head. Well, a beast or a human can die from massive bleeding without any head slicing. Mark thought inwardly and continued to walk. Soon, they entered a huge tent. Tea or wine? The second prince asked him in a casual tone, taking his seat. Mark also took a seat at the round table and waved his hands. Just a glass of water is enough, Your Highness. It's not that he wanted to reject the hospitality. It's just that he's more of a coffee and beer guy. And unfortunately for him, coffee isn't invented in this world, and he didn't know where he can find coffee beans either. Thankfully, beers were available in every town and city, although it's more of a commoner's drink. So, Mark didn't think it would be available at this camp. Since Shang Wen didn't offer it, he didn't ask for it either. The second prince gestured a servant, and the latter left the place to bring tea for him and water for Mark. After a while, only Mark and Shang Wen are present in the tent. The second prince then put forth his proposal while resting his arms on the table. So, it's like this. As I have already mentioned, I plan to create a new unit in our regiment. It will be comprised of only civilians who weren't blessed with ether. Chapter 67.2, A Deal with the Second Prince, Part 2. I'm experimenting with 20 soldiers per unit at the start. If it becomes successful, we will increase the numbers to 50, 100, and later, we might even establish a separate division with 500 or more soldiers. I made enough inquiries and knew for sure that you won't reveal who you are receiving your weapons from because of a confidential contract. So, I never planned to force you to. Instead, I wanted to establish a long-term partnership. However, before that, I needed to know whether you can procure enough bullets for our entire unit or not. If I even consider 20 per day, each one will consume over 140 bullets. That's just the usual estimation. There can be even more. As the numbers grew, consumption will also increase. Can you alone handle this order? If you can't, arrange a meeting with the manufacturer. Tell him my name and identity. If he thus she is willing to, then we can proceed with it, and in return, I will handsomely reward you too. The second prince put forth the proposal and waited for the answer, sipping his tea. Mark fell into thoughts. He wasn't thinking whether he can or not, considering he's the creator. What he was doing is calculating the profits in his head. 140 bullets, 20 members. 2,800 bullets per week, 145,600 bullets per year. Each bullet, 20 silver coins. That means 29,120 gold coins per annum. And what if there were 100 members? It will cross 100,000. I can complete the quest with ease, hee. After thinking about it, Mark felt like this is a good deal and nodded. I can. How many bullets, how many weapons do you need? If it was a couple of weeks ago, Mark's heart would spike just by thinking about such a huge amount. However, after selling 500 gold coins worth of weapons to Lin Shui every day as a part of the deal, he felt a lot calmer when he heard the second prince. Very well. The second prince let out a pleasant smile. He was also a little bit surprised by the confidence in Mark. After all, it isn't a small deal either. Taking a sip, he spoke. For the first order, I will have 5,000 bullets altogether. It'll take a week. Mark gave a quick answer. If it is urgent, I can reduce it by 2 more days. A week, is it? Shang Wen thought for a bit and nodded. That will be okay for me. After this is over, I will visit your store to check out the weapons personally and will finalize the deal. You can stay here as our guest in the meantime. The second prince continued to sip the oolong tea and took out some papers from the storage ring and started reading it in silence. He doesn't have anything else to talk to Mark. They aren't acquaintances whether they can talk about casual things. Mark isn't a noble where they can talk about the politics, and neither Mark is a higher realm spirit warrior where he can discuss strategy in the upcoming battle. What can Shang Wen do other than stay quiet? Thankfully, Mark has different plans. After a brief silence, he opened the inventory and took out a pistol, placing it on the table. He then started taking revolver this time. Tap tap. The sound attracted the attention of the second prince and raised his head. Him. Mark was taking each type of firearm one after another, placing them on the table. He then looked at the second prince. Your Highness, you don't need to visit the store. Let us finalize the deal, right away. This is single-shot pistol. Only 1 bullet can be loaded each time. So, in a battle, one has to keep pulling the trigger and load it in the barrel. Mark had an inkling that this prince knows how to handle this weapon. Nevertheless, he demonstrated pulling the hammer and clicked the trigger each time. There was no bullet. So, no one outside is alarmed. Mark continued, its maximum range is 15 meters and costs 5 gold coins. The bullet can go farther too, but the accuracy drops. When the target is between 15 to 20 meters, the accuracy drops to 50%. When the target is between 20 to 25 meters, the accuracy drops to 25%. And when the target is above 30 meters, you can believe that no matter what you do, it won't hit the target. Not just this pistol, every firearm has a maximum effective range. And has an absolute range of twice the maximum range. And the range between them, you can only depend on luck. In such a case, you will only waste the bullet. So, I won't recommend shooting unless you want to depend on your luck. Mark put down the pistol and took the next one. This is revolver. You can keep 6 bullets in this chamber. It is a double-action revolver. So, you just click the trigger after loading the bullets. Its range is 25 meters, absolute range 50 meters, and cost 20 gold coins. These two are semi-automatic pistols. This is its magazine where you can store 10 bullets. Adding with the one that's loaded, you can shoot 11 bullets in a row. Its range is 30 meters, absolute range 60 meters, and costs 30 gold coins. And the second model is P226. Its magazine can store 20 bullets. That's 21 consecutive shots for the user. This weapon also has night vision, which will make it easier to point at the target in low light conditions. Adding to that, I sell individual magazines for this model so that it becomes easier to load if you are in hurry. Its range is also the same, about 30 meters, absolute range 60 meters, but cost 50 gold coins. The magazine also cost only 1 gold coin. This model also has a no-fee maintenance offer. Each gun usually needed to be cleaned every 6 months. It might be even lesser if you use it too frequently. I won't charge it, no matter how many guns they are. While Mark explained about the 20-round semi-automatic pistol, the second prince saw that he was more expressive than before and there was also excitement written on his face. He wondered it might be because the model is the most expensive. But it wasn't the case at all. Mark was just happy to showcase the weapon from his country of the previous life. Mark continued. Now, it is the exclusive weapons, which are limited in a sale. So, they are sold to exclusive customers. The first of them is this Derringer. As you can see, this one has 2 barrels, so you can quick-fire 2 shots. However, its recoil is quite greater compared to a revolver and other advanced firearms. Its maximum effective range is also only 10 meters but costs 10 gold coins. And also, to buy this weapon, the customer's purchases from our store needed to reach at least 1,000 gold coins. Or else, they won't be qualified. 10 meters. The second prince was taken aback by its price and its details. In his opinion, it was worse than the single-shot pistol. The effective range is the reason he chose these firearms. The conditions were even more ridiculous to him. This Derringer's redeeming feature is that its appearance is quite catchy than previous models, but things like appearance were also useless to the military. Okay, next. Shang Wen showed his disinterest in it. Mark nodded and put it down, picking up the final weapon. I told you about this shotgun. There are several models but for now, only this model Tomahawk is available. Its maximum effective range goes as far as 50 meters and its absolute range is 100 meters. The gun costs 50 gold coins and has the capacity to hold 5 rounds in the bottom and 1 load. So, that's 6. And adding on top of it, this saddle has 4 spaces where we can put the shotgun shells. As for the shotgun shell, each one of these will cost about 1 gold coin. Like P226, no maintenance offer is there on this weapon. However, to be eligible, you need to be either a level 2 customer or have a 10,000 gold coins worth of total transaction with the store. Putting the Shogun back on the table, Mark asked, Your Highness, which weapon interests you? Everything can be arranged within a week as long as the numbers aren't too high. What about the weapon that was used to demolish the Song clan? Is it not for sale? The second prince wondered out loud before realizing his mistake. Mark's facial expression instantly changed to frown as he replied, It's not for sale, Your Highness. Only one such weapon was built and it was bound to my soul. I won't sell it at any price because it is what that will protect my life. When he was explaining it, he only thought of making profits. But now, he wondered whether this prince is actually eyeing for the tank in the name of such deals. Is that so? While the second prince fell into thoughts, Mark opened his inventory and sneakily took out the potion before keeping it in his pocket, reminding himself that he needed to be careful at all times when he's outside the store. He only felt ease up a little when he saw the second prince take each firearm into his hand and check out the feel in his hand. Mark eyed the P226 model, his favorite and the one that was sold only once until now. The atmosphere fell silent. The second prince was completely absorbed in thoughts while Mark was waiting for his decision while hoping that a 20-round semi-automatic pistol to be selected. As for raising his luck, Mark didn't dare to do it to the prince. After the incident with Mo Jiang, he realized that luck absorption is basically a curse spell from the ring and the church can not only detect it but also remove it with force. Mark doesn't want to do that to the second prince and harm his business, despite feeling on the edge just a moment ago. On top of that, there's something called business ethics. Since the second prince is now a customer, Mark shouldn't do things like that. After being silent for a whole minute, the second prince asked a question, How good are you with those weapons or firearms that you called? I guess I'm familiar with shooting. Mark gave a modest answer, wondering why he asked such a question. It was then, the second prince stood up from his seat, instead of telling his decision. Mark followed the suit. Shongwen then said, "That revolver and that P226, is it? And the shotgun? Follow me to the outside with those 3 and put the other 3 away." Chapter 68.3, A Deal with the Second Prince, Part 3. It was noon. The sun was above the hills. Everyone who wore the armor is feeling the heat. People are eating their lunch. The poor donkey that carried Mark all the way to the place was placed along with other livestock to get ready for the dinner. Meanwhile, in the southern troops' camp, the soldiers gathered around at the behest of their general. As for the others, they were denied entry to the place because of the restrictions placed by the general a week ago. Mark appeared to be the center of attention as he was not only demonstrating the weapons but also his skill. There were 3 logs, sized about 5 feet in length with a few meters apart from each other, that were seen standing before him nearly 30 meters away. On top of each one, there was an empty flower pot was placed. On the other hand, Mark had a 20-round semi-automatic pistol in his hand. The general offered the bullets as he was demonstrating for them, but he refused the offer and loaded his own 9mm bullets from the inventory. But why is Mark demonstrating his skills? Well, it is because he's really the only one that was familiar with the 3 of the firearms that Shongwen selected earlier. Adding on top of that, the second prince is a client and asked for a live demonstration. If he doesn't do it, then what sort of a seller is he? Not knowing the real intentions of the second prince behind this request, Mark showcased his skills. He raised the left arm with the gun and gripped the handle with 2 hands. Since he's left-handed, he closed his right eye just in case to narrow down his vision. Normally, he doesn't need to, but he felt this demo was important to the deal. So, he took it seriously and doesn't intend to miss it. After pulling back the slide and letting go, Mark concentrated on the pot for 5 seconds. Just as he was about to click, he realized that the safety switch was on. He switched it off and concentrated on the target for a couple of more seconds and clicked the trigger. Bang! The shell fell off from the gun and at the same time, the flower was exploded into pieces. This is almost twice as fast as that single-shot pistols but is only slightly faster than that semi-automatic pistol P365. The second prince could barely see the bullet as it traveled above the speed of sound with 350 ms secretary. While he can dodge it as the bullet usually travel in the straight line with how the gun is placed, but it becomes very difficult for a 6-circle realm spirit warrior to clearly see an object that travels above the speed of sound. The second prince was satisfied with it. If he can't see it, then how would 1-circle and 2-circle realm enemies can see it? That means the targets, which he planned to use them on, will be injured or die for sure as long as his new unit gets properly trained. Bang bang! Within the next 2 seconds, consecutive shots were fired and blasted the remaining flower pots. Next! The second prince passed the order. Mark changed it to revolver while walking forward and a new flower pot was placed on top of each log. He stopped at the 20-meter range. He doesn't feel nervous like before, this time. Bang bang bang! Another set of flower pots was destroyed one after another. Unlike before, it only took 2 seconds for 3 shots. The soldiers around seemed to be amazed. Whether it is 20 meters or 30 meters, the distance is definitely not a small one for 4-circle and lower realm experts. However, the second prince was a bit unimpressed. After seeing the earlier performance with P226, he wasn't satisfied with the revolver. Next. This time, Mark was standing nearly 40 meters away. That's like 130 feet. And when they saw Mark has the biggest firearms they have seen in his arms, the soldiers turned curious. Mark's confidence was very high with the 2 earlier successes. So, he didn't even put too much concentration like his first shot and just calmly raised it with 1 hand and clicked on the trigger. As the giant pellet hit the flower pot with 3 times the speed of the sun and blew into 1,000 pieces, the soldiers stood there for a couple of seconds like a statue. What the heck was that? Even the second prince was stunned as he couldn't even see the pellet until it hit the target. He rubbed his eyes as he concentrated too hard only to see some blurry thing travel in front of him. While archers felt they can also easily shoot such targets from 40 or even 50 meters, some of them couldn't help but realize how easy it was to shoot with the gun. Adding on top of that, the speed of the last one is almost 10 times the speed of arrows launched by them. Thankfully, the guns were ungraded weapons and the bullets have extremely limited power. All the 12 members in the archery unit sighed in relief that guns cannot replace their bows. Meanwhile, a smile appeared on Mark. Bang bang. The other 2 flower pots were also destroyed to tiny bits. He was satisfied with his performance and turned his head to look at the second prince. Your Highness, what do you think? You say that shotgun is exclusive? Shang Wen asked in a questioning manner as if he wanted to say that Mark needed to make an exception for him. But Mark couldn't do anything. He was also slightly disappointed that the second prince probed about something that can't be bought. In the end, he nodded, yes. The rules cannot be changed. All right, everyone, continue with daily sparring sessions, and Lu Zhen, follow me. The second prince once again returned to his tent. Mark also followed inside and took a seat. Tap tap tap. Tapping the table a few times, the second prince went into a quick calculating mode and a few seconds later, he spoke. Here's the deal. I will make an order of 5,000 bullets and 20 semi-automatic pistols of the P365 model right now. Then, 2 weeks after the delivery of your first order, the second order of 5,000 more bullets needed to be delivered. Upon completion of 4 weeks of training and showing the results to His Majesty, if he gives the permission, we will formally make a contract and your store Genesis will become an official partner for Southern Army's Firearm Division. We'll negotiate then. 5,000 bullets and 20 P365s. Mark couldn't help but be disappointed a bit. Just now, he displayed how awesome P226s are, but this Imperial Prince turned out to be stingy. Sigh. But then again, this is also a good business opportunity. Mark felt that something is better than nothing. He also hoped that maybe firearms will be incredibly popular once the military started using them. Of course, he also knew that soon, maybe within a few months or maybe a year or at most 2 years, his monopoly on 9mm bullets might disappear. Until then, he needed to make as much profit as he can. And at the rate he's earning money, Mark knew that he'll be wealthy by then. Mark agreed to the deal and he was paid 500 gold coins as the advance. After that, he didn't get to have a talk with the second prince again. He was provided a small tent in the camp to sleep, usually exclusive to the captains. Chapter 69.3, Dungeon Break, Part 3. Later, that evening, Mark finished his dinner and sit with a few of the soldiers around the campfire. Lieutenant General, who seemed to be such a mighty figure, Mark commented casually as he was listening to the adventures of Infantry Division's Lieutenant General, Hu Shi. Yep, if it not for the limited positions of generals, he would have already become one. A soldier named Lu Zhen spoke with pride. While he wasn't an extrovert, he likes the company of others too. And for some reason, he felt safe at this camp. Maybe it is because he's far away from the Imperial City, or maybe it's because the soldiers were weak. The reason doesn't matter. What matters is that he was chatting with others about casual things, which he didn't get to have with other people in his neighborhood because everyone would be busy. Unlike him, they don't get to earn much. A couple of hours passed away. The soldiers appeared to be energetic. On the other hand, Mark was getting sleep. He wanted to leave for his tent and sleep, which only the captain and above pay grade has the privilege, but Lu Zhen was in the middle of storytelling about another adventurer of their mighty Lieutenant General. This time, it appeared to be a romantic story of Lieutenant General Hu Shi and retired General Yuan Qin's daughter, who later became the former's wife. It is quite long and the scenes are like in a drama. He couldn't even tell whether it is real or a story. Mark thought he would leave once it was over, but for now, the story is going on for 15 minutes. So, Lieutenant General Hu climbed the house with the help of pipes in order to not alert anyone. And without making a noise, he managed to enter the balcony of the second floor where Lady Yuan sleeps. Lady Yuan appeared to be awake. She came to the balcony and saw him. They hugged each other. It was then, her door suddenly knocked twice. It turned out to be her father. The other 3 soldiers, who seemed like they are hearing it for the first time, were engrossed in it. What happened next? A soldier named Kong Chin asked in enthusiasm. Did they get caught? Or did our lieutenant general escaped? Another soldier named asked in tension. Lei Jin let out a smile and said, "It was then, lady." Before he finished the sentence, a sound of a huge explosion suddenly occurred far away. Everyone, including Mark, looked towards the source, the hill before them. Followed by that, 3 loud barks were heard in the surroundings. The source was nearly 5 kilometers away, yet, even Mark felt like his audio was cut off for a couple of moments and can only hear the sound of buzzing in his ears. Woof woof woof. Very soon, continuous explosions were seen one after another in the sky, above the hill. The exploding arrows were the signal that the dungeon was broken. The soldiers and the volunteers, everyone stood up on their feet right away. A majority from the lower realm were panicked and the others were serious as it came earlier than they expected. Nevertheless, everyone was picking up their weapons. The second prince and the other elites stepped outside of their tent. Southern Army, get ready. The second prince was the first to give an order before going on his own. The hell? Mark rubbed his eyes and looked at the sky again to see the back of a figure that was flying with bird-like wings. Adding on top of it, the flames were also dancing on the features. Ha! General Shang is really the reincarnation of a phoenix. A soldier stared at the flying figure in admiration. It was still dark. Wherever the prince is flying, the place was being illuminated for a moment. In the meantime, the other elites started to pass orders. Division A, get ready, said a 6-circle realm elite from another camp nearby. Division B, get ready. Division C, get ready. Eastern Army, get ready. Jin Guards, get ready. Division D, get ready. Division E, get ready. As the other 7 groups were gathering together, the troops at the Southern Army also stood uniformly. Mark stood on the side as he doesn't belong to any group. Meanwhile, a captain of a unit, Wang Li, took the charge in Shang Wen's absence, following his order. She's about 5 feet 5 inches, slender, in her late 20s, and can be considered beautiful. The ponytail and pure white hanfu attire only increased her appearance by a few points, but the weapon in her hand annuls all those things. It was a 2-pole hand weapon, comprised of a long handle with a curved blade attached to the top and a sharp metal tip. G is a very diverse and useful weapon. It can be used to slash with the side blade or stab with a drip. It is indeed a good weapon but didn't suit her stature. Tightly gripping the handle, she spoke loudly, "Everyone, our general is risking his life by fighting the dungeon overlord, all alone. As a member of the southern troops, I will lay my life to fulfill our goals set by him at all costs. Are you with me?" As she raised the weapon, every soldier also raised their weapons, and roared, "Yes." She put the weapon and raised it again, "Are you with me?" "Yes." "Now, everyone, get ready to leave." Wang Li put down her weapon and mounted a Fergana horse that was brought by a servant. The knights also mounted their Fergana horses. While they were lean and looked like they will easily get injured, they were 3 times fast as local breeds, touching 150 kilometers per hour despite they are only at the 2-circle realm. And that is what knights and archers of southern troops needed. The second prince specially imported 500 of them, all the way from Leon Empire, spending nearly 200 gold coins on each. As she mounted the horse and rode a bit forward, her eyes fell on Mark. She went towards him. Of course, his looks can't be disregarded by any lady, but it isn't the reason. Upon stopping before him, Wang Li said, "General Shang told me to inform you something." "Him?" He looked at her curiously. "What is it? Did that prince want him to take shelter in the campground, or did he need to go with the troops?" She replied, "Be a spectator or a participant as you wish. If you chose to be the latter, then, just make sure not to mess up the formations of the soldiers or unknowingly harm them, especially my soldiers or any other soldier from Eastern Army. The matter will not be forgiven if such a case arose. Consider it as my request or warning." A frown appeared on Mark as soon as he heard the message. He knew what the second prince is hinting at. On the other hand, Wang Li didn't understand the meaning behind it. But, still, as per orders, she delivered the message and started to leave. Meanwhile, the second prince crossed the hill and saw the army of hounds. His eyes fell on the three-headed hound standing the back. It was as big as 1,000 feet. The second prince handed on the top of the hill where a few scouts were on duty with fire lamp posts placed around. "Your Highness. Don't worry, I will take care." Before they even point out the problem, the second prince assured them by waving his hands. As they sighed in relief, the second prince raised his arms above his head while gathering the ether energy into his palms. "Oh, the god of fire, Zhong, I crave thou to bless me the flames of the eternal traveling lamp to produce a replica." As soon as he finished his incantation, the fire attribute produced a ball of flames above his palms. It was only the size of the head. It was then, the ether energy gushed out of his palms and poured into the ball of flames, making it bigger. Within 10 seconds, it grew as big as 20 feet, illuminating the surroundings. The second prince as well as the scouts clearly saw the army of hounds. "So, there were 5 of them, here." Shang Wen's face turned serious. He pushed the giant fireball upwards. It slowly flew into the sky and stopped at 1,000 meters from the hill and 2,000 meters from the ground level, turning the night into a day on the battlefield. Chapter 70.4, Dungeon Break, Part 4. This Beast King is more intelligent than I thought. Shang Wen had a deep frown on his face with his eyes fixed at the army of beasts. Usually, during a dungeon break, the beasts would go on a rampage, but in this case, they were standing in a formation and calmly waiting for the orders, despite how they felt the fear as soon as Shang Wen arrived on the hill. The formation is like a maze from the top view. It was in the shape of 5 concentric circles with a 1,000 feet big three-headed hound standing in the center. 4 layers in this formation were filled with different types of hounds. In one layer, it is made of 3 circle beasts, and in the next layer, it is 4 circle, the next is 3 circle, and the innermost layer is once again 4 circle beast. As for the 5 circle beasts, they are spread all over the formation. But the biggest trouble is the outermost layer where 300 feet big 2-headed hounds, the supposed guardian protectors of the Overlord, were standing together with the 2 circle realm hounds instead. After observing carefully, the second prince, Shang Wen, mumbled, "Thankfully, the space between each is too great that one can pass through them, but that means the 6 circle realm experts will be engaged on the outside of the formation, far away from the Overlord. I will have to count on myself until the end." Shang Wen then took a scroll out of his storage ring and started to draw the formation and write the instructions before handing it to one of the scouts, telling him to hand it over to Jinda, who has the authority to command other 6 circle realm experts. Flapping his fiery wings, Shang Wen flew towards the army. Woof woof woof. Cerberus let out a mighty bark to get ready for the battle. However, as the second prince continued to fly straight without attacking, Cerberus understood his intentions and once again barked, letting him fly towards the innermost layer. Soon, Shang Wen reaches the centermost formation and stops before the 1,000-foot beast. He proceeded to take out a heavy sword from his storage ring. "I know that you can understand the human speech. Representing the imperial family of the Phoenix Empire, I ask you to surrender and become our ally. All the beasts with the 4 circle realm and above will be spared. You want me to become a mount to inferior creatures like you? Ha ha." To his surprise, Cerberus started to talk in a human speech and even laugh like one. "Listen very well, human. Tonight will be the last day you inferior creatures get to sleep peacefully. After exterminating you and your pitiful army on the other side of the hill, we will not only demolish the cities but also free the other creatures from the dungeon." After making a shocking statement, it went on to say, "Your deaths will be a present to my benefactor." Woof woof woof. Letting out another bark, Cerberus glowed brightly for a second, turning into a man in human form but with dog fur on his arms along with the claws. It's as if he was some kind of a were-dog or were-hound similar to that of a werewolf. The second prince landed on the ground and poured the ether energy into the sword with a serious expression. Several minutes later at the camping grounds. So, what now? Mark fell into deep thoughts as the whole place was evacuated by the spirit warriors. Only the cooking staff and other servants with no ether left. In deep thinking, he was walking back and forth. Mark was the type to get offended when someone gives him a warning unless he doesn't have a way to face the other party. However, he was forced to stay behind, this time because he had yet to make an important decision. If everything went smoothly, Mark would have set out for the top of the hill and parked his tank there while the others get onto the battlefield before the dungeon break. While they were busy arranging their squads and getting into formations, Mark would go into the rear chamber and get ready to shoot the targets with 120mm ammo. After that, the dungeon will break, the monsters will rush out and the allied army will do whatever they planned earlier. Mark will then continuously load and shoot the beast army with 120mm ammunition, creating havoc on the battlefield. Amid the chaos, he will then get back to the front chamber again and ride into the battlefield. Once he kills the beast, all that's left is to store it and leave the place. As he was the one that killed it, no one would naturally object to it. This plan had a major flaw. It is that there will be casualties of humans too. They might be small in number or might be big. In that case, Mark can justify his actions somehow. In this world, people would respect and fear the power of an individual. So, he was confident that they will ignore it as long as his contribution is high. However, the sudden change of his situation became a problem in his strategy. Not only the battle had arrived earlier, not only did the prince display his wings and fly off to the battlefield, turning the area into the day, but he also left a note for him. When Mark heard of it, he felt as if the prince looked through him. Now, if he recklessly attacks the beasts and there will be casualties on the side of the humans, it was clearly giving a signal to Shang-Wen that he will not care about his opinion. And that will also be fine as long as he has high contributions. The worst thing that can happen is their deal falls apart, and he will have to return the advance. But, can he kill the Overlord and acquire its core? Mark had a strong feeling that the prince will battle it for sure. Like him, the prince might also wish for it. If he can't complete the quest, then it's worthless to spend all those ammunition and increase his debt to the system. And then, he will be forced to kill the second prince. Maybe, after that, the remaining 6 Circle Realm experts will die under his hand. What happens then? He will develop a strong enmity out of the imperial family. The emperor will not leave him alive. The store will save him, but the emperor can also ban the citizens to buy the firearms altogether if they can't destroy him, thereby reducing his income to 0 and eventually making him leave the empire itself. In that case, Mark will have to go to a different empire. A firearm is an invention that will be popular wherever it was sold. So, he might be able to start the business again, but if he leaves the empire, then he would lose the income coming from the Lin clan, he will lose the future profits from the second prince himself. They are thousands of gold coins. I had to think of a solution where I won't need to escape the imperial city and also acquire the core. How? Mark continued to ponder. After a whole minute, an idea popped up in his head. What if I wait until the last minute and steal the corpse? All I need to just touch it. Unlike others whose storage rings have limited size, my inventory doesn't have size limitations. Whether it is a 1-foot beast or a 1,000-meter beast, everything is the same. The only thing that matters is the number. But, stealing the beast in front of everyone will extremely offend everyone. The prince or the others won't let me. They will try to kill me. The second prince might take this opportunity to kill me and snatch the battle tank. So, even in this case, I will have to kill them. So, not only do I need to kill it and steal it, but I should also showcase my strength? All this will happen with only one thing. But, is it worth acquiring a rank 6 robot? Wait a second. I can also sell the corpse, right? It is a 7-circle realm beast king. When the thought of the estimated value of such beast appeared in his head, Mark's eyes lit up. If one would be standing before him, they might have seen an illusion of his pupils turning into gold coins for a moment. Cracking his knuckles, he let out a wide grin. Now, let's get to the business. After a while, the battle tank was seen traveling towards the west, taking a detour around to make it to the other side of the beast army. The servants who were standing outside were stunned on the spots. Am I seeing things? They could only look at each other in confusion, for they had never seen such a thing in their whole lives.